Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Zone Stars Day podcast. I'm Matthew Brune, and joining me once again is Ishmael Johnson. And Ish, we got to talk about this Texas and South Carolina game. This was women's basketball, two top 5 teams. Last time they played, South Carolina beat the brakes off Texas in Columbia. And I said, damn, Texas has to play them again. I just thought it was going to be 2 losses. I'm not going to lie.
No, I did too.
Go ahead.
No. Texas obviously comes out with a win, snapping the what game win streak was it?
57.
50.
No, 57.
Sorry, I was 20 off. Yeah, 57 game win streak, 66-62 in Austin. An incredible crowd in the Moody. I saw this game basically start to finish. It was weird because it's one of the rare games where you don't see where Texas led to wire, we should mention, right? Like they led, I think they got up to like a 5-1 lead early, and then they just kept that margin. And like it was one of those games where you're just kind of waiting for like South Carolina to do the thing where it's just like, okay, well, Tahina Paopao, I think, hit like a corner 3, and I was like, okay, here it comes. And then like Malaysia Fulwiley got like a bucket on Rory Harmon, and then she got like a steal, on-ball steal layup, and I'm like, okay, here it comes. And then it just didn't happen. Like Madison Booker, what more can we say about her at this point? Absolute star performance, but I know there's a name you wanted to talk about as well. It's kind of had a breakout performance of her own for Texas.
Absolutely. Kyla Oldecker, especially in the second half. And I do want to say, Taylor Jones was not bad in the first half. Talked about on the broadcast. Taylor Jones in the first half, Oldecker in the second half. That's the 1-2 punch that Texas has at the 5 position that, honestly, at this point, I don't think anybody else in the country has besides maybe UCLA with Lauren Betts and whatnot. But, like, that's the level that Texas has at the center spot. And with that being the case, especially in the second half, Oldecker just ducked in and scored right over Fagan time after time after time. And South Carolina, this isn't about South Carolina, but like they don't have that Camila Cardoso or Leah Boston this year. And
I was just going to say, this is
really take advantage of that.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is when it comes to the depth of South Carolina being a plus and a negative, because it was like, I think Malaysia Fulwiley was their leading scorer of the day. Yeah. She's probably one of their better players, but like she comes off the bench. She's not all the offense doesn't always run through her, right? She's probably the most talented on the team, but like I think Dawn Staley, again, they won a national title doing this. That she's kind of having her in her role, and she kind of fits that role. Next year, maybe her year to be the starter and the star player. But I think, like you mentioned, the Camila Cardoso thing, where it's just throw the ball to somebody and get it done. That's who they needed in this game, and it felt like a lot of this time was like, stick to the system. And then like, okay, Tahina Paopau's in the corner. She'll shoot a 3. Okay, she misses. Okay, Raven Johnson will kind of bring the ball up. I don't know. Okay, Malaysia Fulwiley, you'll bring, So it was like when they needed a bucket in crunch time, it was kind of like, all right, the system's going to get us a bucket. And Texas's defense, it was just good enough to where, frankly, they're big enough to where they couldn't go. Chloe Kitts really struggled in this game, right? Like Chloe Kitts was getting boxed out like hell with versus Texas. And usually if it's an offensive board or something, South Carolina is just imposing enough to just will their way back into this game. And it was like the perfect setup for Texas to where they had to protect a lead, and Texas is damn good at protecting a lead.
Yeah. And even with Rory Harmon not being like a scorer, I think just her presence, she was in and out of the game in the second half, but I think her presence was enough. And then Madison Booker, she got to the rim a couple times late. She had the and one to help close it out. And it's like, all right, so not only do you have the size, but the backcourt, first of all, Shea Holley doesn't come off the court. And then Booker doesn't come off the court. Harmon played 29 minutes. So you have like your backcourt is set. And then you just throw waves at South Carolina in the front court with Oldecker, with Jones, even Winatanda played 18 minutes out there.
Yeah, it was Vic Schaefer very much rotated that front court to make sure that his players were fresh when their players came in, because I think they went their usual 10 deep, and Vic Schaefer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 deep. Like, that's not something he usually does. He usually has his tight 6, right? Tight 7. But Brianna Preston got in the game a little bit. But like you mentioned, when Intanda got in the game, and it was like,
They
okay,
love
he's
Jordan
willing
Lee.
to. Jordan Lee got in the like it. I think he realized after that first game the weaknesses of sticking to the same plan, or like, sticking to similar rotations, but also like I don't know. It's hard for me to say like, oh, this is the weaknesses out here. Like, okay, only a couple teams are going to be able to do this. But
Yeah.
like, I do think there is something to, if you're able to match their physicality. Again, there's only like 3 teams that probably can.
Yeah.
They have trouble figuring something else out. And if you're Texas, that's something you could take and like really put in your back pocket, because if whether it's SEC tournament time, whether it comes down to, Elite
Final
Eight,
Four.
whatever, like Final Four, like that's something where you could say, guys, we're right there. Like, we're right there. We saw what happens when they match up with us physically. This is without Aaliyah Moore, right? Like, Texas wasn't even fully healthy in the front court. And it's like, the guys, we have another player that we can throw out there, and they have no answer for us. They can't guard Madison Booker one-on-one, right? Like Rory Harmon, sure, Malaysia Fawila is going to get hers, but like, she's going to work for it, right? And so there's no easy buckets. I go back to how many times I saw Chloe Kitts in like seemingly in perfect rebounding position, and just Taylor Jones or Kyle Decker just like moving her out of the paint and getting a defensive rebound and getting the ball the other way.
Yeah, they are. The physicality they play with, and now then playing at home, I feel like just in front of 10,500 people. I mean, one of the biggest.
This was one of the biggest crowds they've ever had. Yeah,
I mean that's gonna elevate you, and especially in a game like this. South Carolina is a mystery to me still, because I don't like. They're clearly great, but they're like clearly a top 4 team. They're not clearly the number 1 team like they've been the past few years. So, if you're Texas, Texas, LSU, Notre Dame, all these teams in the top 5, you have to look at them and be like, they're going to be really tough, and maybe we can't beat them, but you go into these games saying we have a chance. And that is huge. I'm excited for the SEC tournament more than anything.
That's going to be a bloodbath, man.
Good Lord. I mean,
I can almost see, like, if we're looking at the tournament, I could see South Carolina winning it, obviously, just because of, again, I could just see them overwhelming somebody and getting the right matchups. But like, Ole Miss could win it. Like I could just see Kentucky could win it. Things can go. Things can break right, and you should probably be safe going with one of the 4. Throwing Tennessee in there with LSU. But like, anything goes right. Texas, LSU. So somebody slips up, wrong matchup one time, and all of a sudden we're talking about Ole Miss as a champion. But
I'll tell you the biggest thing for South Carolina, real quick. Losing Ashlyn Watkins for the year, I think, was absolutely for them, because she does match up with Jones and Oldecker much better than Fagan does. And so, but hey, I mean, again, like you said, Texas doesn't have Aaliyah Moore right now. Everybody's facing injuries. This was a great performance from Texas to get this win. Now 3 teams at the top of the SEC at 10-1, Texas, South Carolina, and LSU. Texas plays host to LSU next week on Sunday. I will be there. So on site for Zone Star State, definitely not just because of my other job, but Zone Star State
we got credentials.
Credentialed to Texas LSU. So I'm very much looking forward to that. That's a top 5 game now. But yeah, huge win for Texas. I don't have much else.
No, I mean, this is last year watching this Texas team. When they won their games in the most impressive fashion, these are the type of wins that I thought of. I was like, oh, this team's built already. And when they lost to South Carolina the way they did originally, I was like, damn, did I completely overestimate what this team could do? And no, that was just a bad game, it looked like.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't even need Booker and Harm to shoot like super efficiently. They took 2 of them. Real quick before we get out, I watched A&M men's beat Missouri 67-64. Wade Taylor hits a 3 with, I think it was like a second left. No, there's a little bit more time, but he hits a 3 to win the game. And I'm like, that's a huge win over a Missouri team that was also 6-3. So those 2 6-3 teams on the road. For A&M to win that game, Pharrell Payne was a force. Wade Taylor's Wade Taylor. They're now 7-3 in conference. Real quick, what do we think about A&M right now as they go down the last what is this 8 games of conference?
Yeah, I think 3-game win streak. I think that I'm still very.
They're on the line. Sorry to cut you off. I think they're on for a 2 seed right now in the NCAA tournament, which is crazy.
It's crazy, but I think it's fair. Like, I'm still optimistic about this team, right? You look at the losses. Okay, Alabama, Kentucky, and Texas. Texas, you look at and say, yeah, they should have won that one. But like, hey, look, sometimes you blow games.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just blow games. Texas is going to have that over them unless they meet again, right? They're going to have that over them for another year. But that's the only like bad loss in conference. Like Kentucky, I think Kentucky's pretty good. So like, I don't look at that as like an awful loss. Alabama is one of the best teams in the country. I'm still very optimistic about A&M. I think the way they lost the Texas game is obviously where a lot of the pessimism seeped in very fairly. But right now, looking at a 3-game win streak after that, in retrospect, it's fine. I think Texas is the team that's just going to catch some teams off guard. I think that's a team that, if we blinked and Texas is in the quarters of the SEC tournament, like, are we stunned? Probably not, because that means Trey Johnson went off somehow, which is plausible. I'm still optimistic about A&M. I'm not ready to write them off yet. I still think, like you said, they're in line for a 2. The free throws got to get better, but it is what it is for me.
They have Georgia and Arkansas at home the next 2 games. They'll be favored by, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 points in those 2 games. So, we could be looking at a 9-3 A&M team. Like I said, they still have Tennessee, Florida, Auburn on their schedule, but it's honestly not. Other than that, considering the SEC,
it's not that tough. They don't get Bama or Kentucky again.
Yeah, so very, very manageable. If they get a 2 seed in the NCAA tournament, that would be massive for Buzz Williams and for just A&M basketball in general. I think that would be the real crowning moment. And obviously, you have to win some games at that point. But like, getting a 2 seed and then making it to a Sweet 16 or an Elite 8, like, you are back as a program.
Yes,
as Texas.
100%. I was gonna say, like, if they finish as a 2 seed, and then I really think that Buzz Williams, with this co-sign of year, I think he probably signs an extension. And I think they go into this offseason because they probably lose Wade Taylor, they lose this class. So like, I think they go in with a lot of momentum, and Buzz Williams can point to this and say, invest in us now so I can go build a team, because you look what you saw me do. Right. So I think this is, if they finish it with the 2, maybe make some type of run, we'll see. I really think that this is potentially setting up a big offseason for them, because this is the season that we were hoping they would have.
Exactly. All right. That's all we got for y'all today. Hope y'all enjoyed the episode. Check out our interview with Karen Aston if you haven't already. And we will talk to y'all later.